Zelensky, the conflict between Ukraine and Russia will mean a full-scale war in Europe. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, as joined a press conference, warned Russia against invading Ukraine. Mr. Zelensky said that the conflict would escalate into a full-blown European war, while Mr. Johnson promised that an invasion would be a military disaster for Moscow. A further Russian invasion of Ukraine would be a political humanitarian catastrophe for Russia and for the entire world. I also think that it will be a military disaster for Russia and the whole world, said the British Prime Minister. According to him, Western countries are still observing the constitution of Russian troops on the border with Ukraine, which indicates an imminent military campaign. He stated that Western countries would impose sanctions against Russia in the event of an invasion automatically. Mr. Zelensky said that Russia would prove its desire for de-escalation only if it withdraws troops from the border. We are looking forward to the moment when Russia withdraws troops from our borders. This is a very important signal and the only truthful answer of the Russian Federation to the question whether they are going to continue the escalation or not, he said. Earlier, NATO announced and increased its military presence in Eastern Europe. In total, 6 fighters, a frigate, and several ships will arrive in the region. This is done in case of an allegedly impending Russian invasion of Ukraine. At the same time, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg promised not to deploy NATO troops in Ukraine. This country is not a member of the alliance. Putin explained the demand for non-expansion of NATO by a possible attack by Ukraine on Crimea. Russian President Vladimir Putin explained why NATO expansion, including the admission of Ukraine into the alliance, is unacceptable. According to him, Ukrainian doctrinal documents say that Ukraine will seek the return of Crimea and can achieve this, including by military means, and if Ukraine joins NATO, then Russia will have to defend its region by fighting against the entire bloc. It is written in the state documents of Ukraine itself that they are going to return the Crimea, including by military means. It's not what they say to the public, it's written in the documents. Let's imagine that Ukraine is a member of NATO, staffed with weapons. There are modern strike systems like in Poland and Germany, and is starting operation in the Crimea. Now, I'm not even talking about Donbass, the president said at press conference following talks with his Hungarian counterpart, Viktor Orban. According to the president in Russia, attacks Crimea, it will have to fight the entire bloc. What will fight with the NATO bloc? So, has anyone thought about this? It doesn't seem to be, he says. At the press conference, Mr. Putin also that Russia was studying the responses of the USA and NATO, its demand for security guarantees in Europe. But it's already clear that the key demands of the Russian Federation, including preventing NATO expansion and refusing to deploy strike weapons system near the Russian borders were taken into account. In December 2021, Russia presented a draft in the security structure of Europe. The main requirement is the expansion of NATO. In January, the United States and NATO handed over to Russia a response to the submitted drafts. Allies noted in their responses that NATO's open door policy would continue. Russia is expected to provide in reaction to the US and NATO responses soon.